Greetings. I'm online and I'm on the air, bringing you guys another art tutorial because I strongly believe that education should be free. In some places it is, not here in corporate America. In this tutorial, what I wanted to cover is some basic box modeling using 3D Studio Max. Why did I choose to use Max in order to build this thing instead of any other application? I could have used Maya instead of Max. I'm actually a lot more accustomed to working with Maya at this juncture in time instead of Max because I've been doing a lot of Maya stuff recently. But after using both Maya and Max, I just personally I prefer using Max for building stuff as opposed to Maya. Like Maya can do it, it's got the tools, but I just find that at least to me it seems like Max handles like building stuff a little bit better than Maya does. On the other hand, it might be just a matter of preference. Maybe I've just been using Max longer than I've been using Maya, so I'm happier with Max instead of Maya. Who knows? Anyways, in order to start modeling this thing, we're going to need some image planes. So these planes, I'm going to use these planes to like put on some blueprints or some orthographic images that we can use to build our stuff from. Excuse me while I toggle this thing for a bit. I've got my Maya and Max shortcuts mixed up. Let's see. Control pans, Alt rotates. Wait. Yeah, Control pans, Alt rotates, and Control and Alt zooms. So yeah, hopefully I can remember that throughout this tutorial. Why is this marquee this shape? Weird. I recall using like the freeform marquee tool a lot before. This is the material editor or the material browser. Well, this is what it used to look like back in, I think, must be version 9 or maybe version 10, but then they changed it back in like version 11. You can still like you can swap back and forth between the different modes. I'm accustomed to using I forgot what the compact mode as opposed to the other mode, the nodes mode or the maximize node. Okay, this is kind of weird. My image doesn't look like it's saved properly. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to open up the Dan orthographic model. I'm going to build a character Chit for this character, this model. Let's say I wanted to build this model. It'd start off with some kind of a character Chit. It's like a low poly model of my character. I want you to take a look at something over here. Notice the way this character was sketched out, was drawn, like around like the pants, legs, the bottom of the shirt, sleeves, the shoes. They're drawn. These things were drawn in a more flat manner, less depth, less perspective. You want, when you're building your orthographic, you need to like build it with no depth and no perspective in order to like model from it, because you can't really model from it if there's depth and perspective. If you try and model something with depth and perspective, then your model is going to end up coming out like all skewed and stuff, and things aren't going to line up. It's going to be real difficult and troublesome to work with. So make sure you remember to like draw it with no depth, make everything flat when you're doing the orthographics. So you go into the material editor, you apply that image to the plane, you apply it to that plane too, and notice the planes are only one-sided. I gotta change the position of these planes, make sure they line up with the 3D universe correctly. I'm going to try and line these planes up so that when I'm building my character Chit model thing, the character Chit model thing will be built in the center of 3D space. You see those black grid lines? those black grid lines represent coordinates 0, 0, 0, where the area where they cross. And it's important to position your 3D content properly in the event that you want to take your 3D content and import them into another application or another file. Like if you're going to stick this stuff into a game engine, how your stuff is coming in is going to be dependent on the 3D content and its position to coordinates 0, 0, 0 in your 3D file thing. I'm not going to say max file because all these different applications all have different names and whatnot. Okay, so you build your box. I'm going to start off with this guy, center him out there, and then you turn that box into, oh wait, I noticed something here. My image is a little skewed, so I gotta get the plane, the length and width to match the dimensions of the image. I know the image is 8.5 by 11 because I tried to make it like by the image size. Force of habit. So if I make it 8.5 by 11 and scale it up, that should prevent the image from skewing. Now we can model from it. And I don't want to try skewing the other thing. Well, you can do it. It might take a little bit longer, a little bit more difficult to do it. So I'm just gonna like take my fixed scale image and I'm just gonna like copy it over. Now you can copy stuff pressing the shift button. You shift and move or shift and rotate and it makes a duplicate. And when it makes a duplicate, it gives you an option to copy or to instance or reference. I'm not really sure what reference is. I've never actually needed to use that before. But if you're copying something, you're creating a duplicate of that object, right? And it's completely independent. I'm getting my controls mixed up again. But if you're creating a reference image or a reference model, whatever you do to one model is going to affect the other model. No, that's instance. Sorry. Instance, whatever you do to one model affects the other model. Reference, I have no idea what that is. I've never needed to use it before, so I don't think it's really relevant. I'll cross the bridge when I get to it. So turn on transparency, and I guess you may not have noticed, but when you like right click on the objects and you got like the option to freeze something, normally when you freeze something in Max, your frozen object turns gray. You can't see its textures or anything like that. In order to like prevent that from happening, there's a checkbox for showing, which says, do you want to show your frozen object in gray or not? You check that off, it won't show up in gray. In the ribbon, you've got like the swift loop tool, and that is essentially allows you to like add an edge loop by just clicking on one edge. It creates an edge loop. You don't have to like select all the edges and then click the connect button. Max did it right this time. I know that Maya had this kind of a function before. I don't think Max had this kind of a function before. The process that you had to use in order to do something like that in Max was a lot more complex and convoluted. It's like you had to select all the edges and then you had to like click on the connect button in the editable poly modifier in order to get it to work. But now you can just use the Swift loop. The graphite model tool, the graphite ribbon thing is actually kind of nifty. Seems like all the tools that are in the modifier thing on the right is up in the ribbon somewhere. And I think there are like a few tools in the ribbon that